The bold and the beautiful spoilers for Monday, July 21st, state that John Finnegan will suspect Grace Buckingham of lying while Bill Spencer's money solves a debt problem. Once Grace is settled into her hospital office, she will check her phone for financial information. Grace will receive confirmation that $1 million has been deposited, and she will reportedly ensure that Bill's money is delivered to the mystery caller. Someone has evidently grown frustrated with Grace, who may have inherited her ex-husband's debts after Reese Buckingham was imprisoned. Grace appears to be really anxious, and she would not jeopardize her profession without a valid reason. It appears that Paris and Zoe Buckingham have been threatened because of their debt situation. Grace was undoubtedly desperate to pay this individual off and remove the threat to her girls. Of course, that doesn't excuse Grace's manipulative behavior. Bill, Liam Spencer, Hope Spencer and Steffy Forrester are all overjoyed with the extraordinary outcomes of Liam's experimental treatment. Although Finn is happy on some level, he is also perplexed as to how this is even possible. Furthermore, Finn doesn't understand why Grace handled everything in such a sneaky manner. Thus B&B teasers predict he'll initiate an investigation. Finn may soon storm into Grace's office with questions, and Bridget Forrester may have her own, given her involvement in Liam's case. Grace may feel intimidated and struggle during a grilling session. Although Grace may persuade Finn to accept Liam's miracle and move on, he will not stop until he discovers the real truth. Finn will suspect Grace of lying and may be concerned that this treatment is not genuine, despite the most recent scans. However, the cure is unlikely to be the root cause of the problem. All indications lead to Grace falsifying the scans early on and stating Liam was dying of a brain tumor, which a bogus surgery repaired for $1 million. According to the bold and the beautiful spoilers, fans are wondering what will happen to Poppy Nozawa now that Luna Nozawa has left. Will Poppy find a new man or deal with more drug drama? Poppy reacted harshly to the news that Luna did not survive her latest injury. Lee Finnegan was upset with her sister after Poppy insisted she was relieved to be rid of Luna. Poppy did, however, soften and become more emotional during her later talk with John Finnegan. Poppy has mixed thoughts over Luna's tragic fate. Poppy must be feeling lonely these days, which could lead to some new narrative ideas. Poppy might find a new man to count on as she seeks a way forward. If the program wanted to be really soapy, they'd have Poppy reconnect with Finn or create an unexpected friendship with Deacon Sharp, which would stir Sheila Sharp up. However, it would be amusing to watch Poppy fall for Carter Walton, as his relationship with Hope Logan is certain to end in heartbreak. Of course, Poppy doesn't have to venture into romantic area to have a tale. We may also envision Poppy consuming more drug mints and spiraling out of control as a result. However, Poppy may eventually discover hints pointing to Lee's dishonesty. There are indications that Lee faked Luna's death and has been covertly caring for her off-screen. Will Poppy follow the trail and discover what Lee is hiding? Will Poppy become enraged by Lee's terrible ruse and claim that Luna belongs in prison? Whatever the case, Poppy doesn't have anything going on right now, and may need something fresh to do. Perhaps B&B will take this opportunity to reset Poppy's life, and make some shocking changes. According to the bold and the beautiful teasers, Lee's Luna secret will be revealed sooner or later. Therefore Poppy should be entangled in that tale in the future. For as long as anyone could remember, Dr. John Finnegan was the picture of serenity under pressure. Finn had always maintained a calm demeanor, whether dealing with life-threatening crises in the hospital or managing the crazy ride of his marriage to Steffy Forrester. His calm, patience and unshakable dedication gained him admiration from his co-workers and grudging respect from even the most suspicious members of the Forrester family. However, every man has a breaking point. Finn's long-awaited moment has finally arrived. The strain had been building beneath the surface for months, if not years, like a fault line gradually grinding its way toward an eruption. Finn maintained a professional, collected demeanor on the outside, but something darker was simmering behind his gaze. A guy can only take so much treachery, deceit, and emotional turmoil until the dam breaks. It started simply enough. Finn had spent the last few weeks immersing himself in his work at the hospital, partially to escape the upheaval at home. Steffy has been becoming more distant and guarded. He'd attempted to communicate with her, to grasp what was going on in her head. However, each talk concluded with deflection, evasion, or worse, gaslighting. She'd tell him he was imagining things, that she was just tired, and that he was being overly sensitive. But Finn knew Steffi. He understood the distinction between fatigue and evasion. Then there was the issue of Liam Spencer. Liam had always been an obstacle between him and Steffi. Finn had done his best to endure Liam and Steffi's co-parenting relationship because of their daughter Kelly, but his patience had worn thin over time. Liam constantly showed up at the most awkward times, ready to sweep in like a white knight whenever Steffi was vulnerable. It didn't matter that Liam had vacillated between Hope and Steffi for years, causing emotional havoc in his wake. What mattered was that Steffi still appeared vulnerable to Liam's presence, his words, touches, and insinuations. Finn had reason to assume anything had happened between them, something more than just a pleasant co-parenting contact. Late-night messages. The covert phone calls. Steffi would return home embarrassed and evasive after allegedly spending time with Kelly and Liam. Finn had been giving her the benefit of the doubt for far too long, and now he was finished. The final straw came on a quiet evening at home, one of the few occasions when he, Steffi, and the kids were meant to have a family supper. But just as he was finishing the pasta, Steffi received a text message. Her phone buzzed on the counter, and Finn peered at the screen without intending to snoop. It was Liam. "We should talk. Tonight." The words sent shivers down Finn's spine. He watched as Steffi grabbed the phone, her expression contorted into a barely hidden terror. She gave a half-hearted justification about going to check on Kelly at Liam's apartment, which didn't add up. Finn did not stop her. He did not question her. He merely watched her leave. When the door closed behind her, something within him broke. Finn had been making sacrifices for years. He'd understood that being with Steffi entailed dealing with her complicated background, unresolved feelings, and intricate family dynamics. He had embraced it because he loved her deeply, truthfully, and unconditionally. But now, standing alone in the kitchen with a half-set dinner table in front of him, he recognized that love alone was insufficient. He left the meal alone and proceeded to their bedroom, glancing at the empty spot on the bed they had previously shared with warmth and intimacy. Everything now felt hollow. A performance. It's a shadow of what it once was. He clenched his jaw, resisting the strong desire to scream. But no, he would not yell. Not yet. The next day at the hospital, Finn returned to his duties with newfound vigor, although everyone could sense something was wrong. He was gruff with nurses and rude in talks. Even his patients, who typically considered him pleasant and reassuring, appeared to detect a cold edge beneath his grin. When Bridget Forrester, a close colleague and friend, approached him and inquired whether he was okay, he simply answered fine, in a clipped tone that warned her not to press. Later that afternoon, while checking patient charts, he noticed Liam's name flash across his phone. Not a message, just a missed call. Finn's hand trembled as he placed the device down. Whatever Liam wanted was not going to be good. And sure enough, when he got home that evening, Steffi was waiting for him, sitting on the edge of the sofa like a pupil bracing for a punishment. They hardly managed to exchange niceties before the incident erupted. Finn was weary of being passive and demanded answers. He asked her directly if there was anything going on with Liam. Her eyes widened in surprise and then instantly narrowed in defensive rage. "How can you even ask me that?" she snapped. "You think I'd cheat on you?" "I don't want to think about that," Finn said, his voice quivering with wrath. "But you're not giving me a reason not to." The argument escalated swiftly. Years of stored rage, half-truths, and betrayals poured forth like poison. Finn accused Steffi of not totally letting go of Liam. Steffi accuses Finn of being insecure and controlling. He reminded her of how frequently he'd taken a back seat to Liam, how he'd been supposed to understand when Liam stepped into their lives. She reminded him that Liam was Kelly's father and would always be a part of her life. "But there's a difference between co-parenting and clinging to the past," Finn explained, his voice rising. "And you crossed that line." Steffi didn't explicitly deny it, but her silence was devastating. Finn stood there, his chest heaving and his heart tearing in real time. The woman he had planned a future with, the woman he had imagined getting old with, was now a stranger. Then came the part that really sent him over the brink. As if the emotional betrayal wasn't enough, Finn discovered from a common acquaintance that his unstable, manipulative birth mother, Sheila Carter, had attempted to contact him again. Worse, Steffi knew about it but kept it from him. When he questioned her with this, her explanation was thin. I did not want to upset you. I believed it would be best if I handled it myself. You thought it would be better to lie to me about Sheila? Finn exclaimed, the veins in his neck bulging. She tried to kill you. She attempted to kill me. And you're keeping her attempts to communicate a secret? Finn's voice rang out like a storm for the first time in the house. All of the emotional reserve he had developed over the years vanished in an instant. He wasn't violent or cruel, but the rawness of his voice and the rage in his eyes were unnerving. This was a man broken, not by a single betrayal, but by 1,000 cuts he had quietly endured for far too long. He walked the living room, hands clenched, his chest rising and falling with each breath. Steffi sat in startled silence, realizing too late the extent of the harm. I have fought for this family, Finn remarked, his voice husky. I've shielded you, forgave you, and even defended you in my own conscience. And for what? To be lied to, ignored, and treated as a placeholder until Liam chooses what he wants? The words lingered in the air, stinging and final. I can't do this anymore, he murmured. That night, Finn did not sleep in their bed. He packed a modest bag and departed. No dramatic exit. No farewell. Just silence. Because sometimes quiet speaks volumes. Finn maintained his distance for several days. He stayed with a buddy, took a break from work, and did something he hadn't done in a long time. He concentrated on himself. He reflected, analyzed, and attempted to untangle his emotions from the turmoil of the previous several years. He slowly began to rebuild. It was not the end for Finn and Steffi. Not necessarily. But there was a reckoning. A moment when the quiet, devoted doctor let go of the illusion that love alone could cure everything. The guy who had dedicated his life to helping others had finally recognized he needed to heal himself. And the mending began when he stopped swallowing his pain and allowed himself to experience it.